Charles Garrett. This film you're about to see was made during a treasure hunting and electronic prospecting trip that several treasure hunters and I made into the remote and extremely rugged Sierra Madre Mountains of Mexico. Of course, we hoped to find treasure, and we did. But our primary purpose was to continue the ongoing field test program of Garrett Electronics metal detectors. As you will see, these detectors more than met the challenge, even when operated over rough, rocky terrain and over highly mineralized ground so common to mining districts. Some of our group were highly experienced professional treasure hunters who were very knowledgeable about metal detector operations. Others would be considered amateurs. Even so, we all thoroughly enjoyed searching the 100-year-old deserted city and the silver-laden river and mining district of the Sierra Madre Mountains. Someday, you may make this same journey. So, let's join our treasure hunters as they begin their descent into the Canyon de Cobre to begin their treasure hunting and electronic prospecting adventure.
Entering the Canyon de Cobre in Mexico's state of Chihuahua with its 2,500-foot vertical drop to the river is an awesome sight. From this point, it takes about 2 hours to reach the famed Batopilas mining district, first worked by the Spaniards in the 1500s. Far below, the narrow road with its sheer 500-foot drop-offs can be seen as it snakes through the heavy mountain growth. In places, the dusty dirt road was washed out and extremely hazardous. The men felt like motorized mountain goats as they eased their way down the steep, narrow road toward the mining village of Batopilas. Almost like a mirage, the sun-bathed village came into view. When the Spaniards first came into this country, they wrote their king, saying there was so much silver on the ground that it appeared to be snow. This small community houses about 1,500 persons and is near the silver mining area. The sleepy little town is obviously enjoying siesta. This road, built to provide a means of transporting precious ore, ran just a short distance beyond Batopilas. It was treacherous, and the deep ruts and sharp rocks jolted the vehicle. Near the road's end, brownish-red adobe ruins thrust their imposing towers and walls through the surrounding undergrowth. This sprawling 100-acre city was built about 1880. To get there, the group waded the shallow river and worked its way toward the city. The men were eager. They couldn't wait to explore this once majestic community. Although it now lies in ruins, portions of buildings still stand, refusing to surrender to the scorching sun, torrential rains, and encroaching jungle. They were reminiscent of a gallant, aging lady, determined to last forever, even though life's trials were sapping her strength and will. As the men entered the outskirts of the ruins, they split into small groups to explore different areas. George, Frank, and Charles decide to stick together. trek soon brought them to a massive stone wall, built laboriously by hand. For what purpose, one could only wonder. It was only natural to stop and examine some of the unusual vegetation. This towering white bark tree was only one example of the many beautiful and rare plants and trees in the area. Anxious to begin searching, the men decided to start using their detectors in and around some of the buildings. An inquisitive lizard watched. This and many other corridors ran throughout the lower floors of several structures. Several families had once occupied these buildings, each with its own quarters. Frank searches for small treasures or possible caches that may have been lost or hidden by these residents. Highly mineralized ground, such as this, requires the use of a dual-circuit ground-canceling detector with TR discrimination capability. Meanwhile, Don searches along outside pathways, carefully seeking coins and relics that may have been dropped years ago by the inhabitants as they moved about the city. Monty searches for valuables that may have been dropped or hidden. Often a loose brick or stone was used to conceal a cache. The person could easily remove a stone, hide his treasure, and replace the stone in the niche, concealing his hoard from all but the eye of a modern metal detector. Areas around door sills and frames should be thoroughly examined. George carefully checks out this one, hoping his detector will sense a hidden cache. During a brief pause, A.M. Van Fossen, noted treasure hunter, related a story. The legend says that Pancho Villa and his gang buried a large treasure on the east side of a wall near a large fountain. Intrigued by Van's tale, Roy searches carefully around a nearby fountain and wall. He realizes that based on such thin evidence as a legend, a treasure hunter could search forever without being successful. Meanwhile, Charles was scanning a room, working toward a fireplace. Sweeping his detector over the fireplace interior, he got a solid signal. Lifting a loose stone, he probed into the dirt and ashes. Uncovering several metal objects. As they filtered through his fingers, he realized he had uncovered a small treasure cache of crude silver cobs of different sizes, representing various denominations. A treasure hunter's dream come true. Eager to use their detectors in electronic prospecting, the treasure hunters hiked several miles into the silver mining area. Thoughts of finding nuggets, and undiscovered ore veins made the trek less tiring. After establishing camp, the group had many inquisitive visitors, among them several Tarahumara Indians. 2 members of this centuries-old tribe told the men about areas where silver nuggets had been found along a particular stretch of the river. They suggested that the men begin searching near this bridge. It had been used by miners for many years to cross the flooded river. When prospecting in areas of high mineralization, a top-quality ground-canceling detector with correct factory calibration is essential for this type of electronic prospecting. Watch closely here, for Roy Legel, one of the world's leading authorities on electronic prospecting, is about to give a lesson in using Garrett metal detectors to find black sand concentrations and silver nuggets, which have settled into bedrock cracks and crevices. Suddenly, Roy hesitates and carefully goes back over a small area. His detector signals that he has found a good black sand concentration in what we call nature's sluice box. He carefully digs into the ground. He next scoops the material into the gold pan for panning. As Roy quickly washes the lighter debris over the edge, the sharp 90-degree riffles of the patented gravity trap gold pan greatly speed up the panning process and allow rapid recovery of the heavier material. Its forest green color permits rapid sighting of the more valuable substances. Roy demonstrates this by pointing out 2 silver nuggets sparkling in the black sand and water. Several of the group have used their detectors and located some promising black sand areas. Dredges were then moved into position to suck the potentially rich deposits from the river bed. There's plenty of company as the Indians, particularly the children, swarm about the operation. The dredge material is placed into the gravity trap gold pan and panned out. Their reward was several beautiful silver nuggets. The adventurers were so engrossed that they nearly lost awareness of this rugged yet beautiful land. Deep brush-choked canyons split the mountains and lower foothills. To continue their electronic prospecting survey of the area, the men now turned their attention to the mines, where they would search for silver veins and test loose ore samples for silver content. To begin their survey, they selected a mine which was once known as a rich silver producer. Charles' immediate interest is in checking the various small pieces of ore scattered about the mine floor. The content of conductive metal in an ore sample can be determined very quickly with a correctly designed and factory-calibrated metal detector. Nearby, Roy carefully scans the mine walls, trying to locate veins of silver that may have been overlooked. While the early miners were good at their jobs, they could not see through rock and were often unaware that rich veins were only a few inches from their picks and shovels. Notice that both men are using larger coils on their detectors. While not essential for ore sampling, the larger coils do provide a much greater depth of detection capability when electronic prospecting.
I thought you might want to take a look at some of the treasures we brought back from our trip. This, for example, is a 7-pound piece of pure native silver and gold taken from an ore vein so rich that in places it was 1 foot wide. Smaller silver nuggets, such as this one, make very valuable collector's pieces. They are formed when chunks of ore break away from the mother lode high up on the mountain. Of course, nearly everyone is intrigued by the thought of finding buried treasure, and every time treasure is found, a slice of history is revealed, bringing us new knowledge about the past. These trading pieces, found in the fireplace, dramatically show us one more way in which man has converted raw silver ore into a form of money. Unfortunately, time does not permit me to go into the details of electronic prospecting. I assure you, however, that treasure, as well as gold and silver, is being found daily by persons just like yourself who are using quality-built metal detectors just like the Garrett ADS. For those of you who would like to learn more about treasure hunting and prospecting, I recommend the many Ram Publishing Company books. For instance, Electronic Prospecting will tell you how to use certain types of detectors for prospecting. Also, Garrett Electronics has other adventure treasure films you may want to see. I hope you have enjoyed watching Treasures of Mexico. It has been a real pleasure to present it for you. Thank you. Hello, I'm Charles Garrett, and this is the annual convention of the Prospectors Club of Southern California. Why do these thousands of people keep coming back to this desolate California desert year after year? Well, the lure of the gold country is mighty strong. This is the way it would have looked 100 years ago, the lone prospector with his burro, pick, and gold pan. Today the search is the same, but there's a world of difference in equipment. These adventurous outdoorsmen gather not only to learn of new equipment and methods, but to share experiences and compete, pitting their various metal detecting and prospecting skills just for the fun of it. As you can see, it's going to be an exciting weekend. Come on along. You're looking at some of today's most enthusiastic adventurers, modern treasure hunters. Nearly 5,000 have gathered here from all across the United States, north, south, east, and west, as well as from such countries as England, France, Germany, Italy, Australia, and Canada. The desert is still hot in early October when they gather to learn about the latest equipment and methods, share their adventures, organize future expeditions, show off their treasure finds, and compete for thousands of dollars in prizes. The Prospectors Club of Southern California had its beginning in 1966 as a nonprofit organization with 22 charter members and has become one of the largest clubs of its kind in the world. The big hunt is about to begin. One hour is allotted for this event. Prior to the hunt, the officials have buried thousands of specially marked coins and tokens. Only small digging tools, like hand trowels and screwdrivers, are allowed, and all screening devices are prohibited. The PCSC insists on good treasure hunting etiquette. All holes must be filled, and failure to do so can result in a contestant's disqualification. The judges keep a sharp eye open for offenders. A red tag detector shaft represents a first warning. If a contestant is spotted not filling his holes the second time, he is automatically disqualified. The hunt concludes, and a panel of judges will count the coins to determine the winners. There's lots of gold out in the desert where there's no water. The dry washer is just the tool you need to recover it. The dry washer separates gold and heavier materials from dry sand with a combination of air blown from a bellows and a mechanical vibration. The precious metals hang up in the riffles, while the lighter sand flows on over the tray into the tailings pile. Most dry washers are home built, and they come in a wide variety of shapes and styles. The dry washing competition is a timed event. Each contestant must run 5 gallons of sand through his dry washer. The sand contains 25 buckshot-sized metallic particles, 5 gold, 5 silver, 5 lead, 5 copper, 5 iron. A 10-second penalty is incurred for each lost particle. The contestant finishing in the shortest time wins. Winning times vary from 60 to 90 seconds. That's really getting the job done. Speaking of getting the job done, there's nothing like an aerial search. On our last project, international treasure hunter and team member Bob Grant brought the gyrocopter into our search for a lost mining site.
I think I found it. I spotted abandoned mining equipment, an old foundation, and several mine shafts.
10-4. There's a map behind the truck seat.
I'll get it and you can pinpoint the location as soon as you're on the ground. Okay, I'll be on the ground in less than a minute.
In many situations, the gyrocopter is an ideal search vehicle. It trailers easily, and in the hands of a skilled pilot, this lightweight, highly mobile aircraft becomes a valuable treasure hunting tool. Obscure trails, landmarks, and other features difficult to locate on the ground can be quickly and easily spotted from the air. The other team members involved in this project were Frank Mellish, one of Europe's most successful treasure hunters, and George Mertzkowski, president of the Gem and Treasure Hunting Association based in San Diego, California. Bob describes an old road he saw leading up to the deserted mining camp. Throughout the western United States, there are thousands of abandoned homesteads, ghost towns, and mining camps. Many of them are virtually untouched because prior to the development of ground-canceling detectors, the heavy mineralization in these areas severely limited the treasure hunter. Now, however, with these advanced detectors, rich ore deposits, lost and forgotten money caches, and many thousands of collectible relics can be found. We decided to split into two teams. Bob and George spotted an old ruins they want to investigate. Frank and I head into one of the mine tunnels. This one had an overhead ventilation shaft that provided enough light so we could see. After briefly surveying the crumbling structure, Bob begins a search of the front yard while George begins to scan the walls. Bob had hardly begun when his metal detector rang out with that sound every treasure hunter loves to hear. A beautiful barber quarter from the late 1800s. Meanwhile, Frank and I found some interesting relics which were left when the mine was abandoned. Relics like these, which were once commonplace, are much in demand today. This carbide lamp lighted some old miner's way into the depths of the earth. Long before the advent of the carbide lamp, candles illuminated the darkened passageways. Holders like this one were driven into the walls at strategic locations. The hobby of treasure hunting has rapidly grown in popularity and scope, thanks to continued improvements in metal detectors. They do an excellent job in coin, cache, and relic hunting, as well as prospecting. Early day miners were certainly some of the best the world has ever known, but they could not see through solid rock. That's where correctly designed and calibrated ground-canceling detectors have proven their worth. Ore veins and pockets that the miners missed can now be quickly located and identified. Since only a small portion of Mother Earth's gold has been recovered, it behooves all treasure hunters to consider the rewarding activity of electronic prospecting. A lucky find? Perhaps. But relics like this one are found quite frequently, and in desert climates they are often well preserved. George is still at it, and one of the earmarks of successful treasure hunting is perseverance. Years of experience have taught Frank never to overlook potential treasure sites. If you ever try this, remember to keep an eye open for snakes, scorpions, and spiders. Bingo! A gold watch is added to our list of finds. Nope, it's not a Timex. The detector reacts to metal, and George investigates.
Holy smoke, would you look at that?
This is one of those rare moments a treasure hunter will remember for the rest of his life.
Hey, Bob! Come here! Come
A fantastic find. The old Chinese vessel was filled to the brim with silver dollars and Chinese coins from the 1800s. You'll have to admit this was an incredible way to end the day.
Another fellow that is serving as a judge for us this year, his name is Richard Ray. He is a second-generation treasure hunter. He's been at it for 25 years, and he's told me to tell you he's only 34 years old. Richard Ray and Tom Townsend.
One of the highlights of the convention is the informal get-together on Saturday night. Guest speakers like Carl von Mueller, Roy Roush, Roy Lagle, Richard Ray, and Tom Townsend show movies and slide presentations and give treasure talks.
The opportunity we had to use our metal detectors, not only to test the ground, but to see what we might find. Unfortunately, we really did not have a great deal of time.
To wind up the evening program, I gave a slide presentation of a trip made by one of the Garrett Electronics field teams to Europe. On this trip, we tested detectors, visited our dealers and distributors, and got in some excellent treasure hunting all the way from northern England to the Mediterranean Sea. Our trip began in London, where we were met by team member and United Kingdom distributor Frank Mellish. Our travels took us across the English Channel and by car from Belgium to Holland, Germany, through the Swiss Alps, into Italy, and then across the Adriatic Sea into Greece. From Frank's London treasure hunting shop, Pieces of 8, we headed for the English countryside, where we hunted Roman village sites, castles, and Hadrian's Wall in northern England, which was constructed in the 1st century A.D. This wall sealed off the furthest reaches of the Roman Empire from the invading barbarians. We detected beneath the windmills of Holland and at the site of the Brussels Fair. One of the highlights of our trip was the day we spent searching for relics at the site of the 1815 Battle of Waterloo. A total of 141,000 troops were engaged in the fight, and 50,000 men died on the field of battle. Today, the peaceful farmlands show little evidence of the carnage of nearly 2 centuries ago. We gained permission to use our metal detectors at the small Hougoumont farm. At this site, 6,000 men and 2 generals lost their lives. We found musket balls, uniform buttons, and other military relics. Many additional Hougoumont finds were made around the chapel, where 13 British infantry fought off nearly 300 French foot soldiers. In Germany, we saw the famous castles along the Rhine that were built centuries ago by the feudal warlords. Many were occupied, but we found a few deserted ones where we searched for ancient medieval war relics. And speaking of war relics, Joseph Whitt of Koblenz has found bazookas, guns, landmines, bayonets, and all types of German and American military equipment with his metal detector. He took us to the Siegfried battle line, where thousands of soldiers met in fierce combat during the final days of World War II. We made many good finds, some of which are on display at the Garrett Electronics Museum in Garland, Texas. This field, situated near the Mediterranean Sea, was the site of many ancient cities. We found dozens of Byzantine, Roman, and Greek coins, some dating as far back as 400 BC. These may be the oldest coins ever found with a metal detector. Let's watch our youngsters as they greet the new day with a flurry of activity. know, one of the most beautiful things about treasure hunting is that any age group can participate. And it appeals to all walks of life. The man in the street, doctors, lawyers, even movie actors. Hey, John Quaid, come here. Hello, John.
How you doing, Charlie?
Good to see you. Hey, what do you got?
Little piece of gold that I picked up down on Dealer's Row.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes, sir, it is.
It's about a 1 ounce gold nugget.
Yes, sir, from Washington.
Beautiful. Hey, you know, I bet there's lots of things like that down on Dealer's Row. Why don't you take the good folks down there and give them a little tour?
I'd love to, Charlie.
Good. Okay.
Oh, my.
Sorry, John.
That's quite all right.
One of the main attractions at the convention is Dealer's Row, and people come from all over the country to see the displays. Many of the major dealers and manufacturers are on hand to show their products. Now, gold, there's an attention getter, and Dick Arthurs always draws a crowd when he displays $20,000 worth of nuggets he dredged from California rivers. There's always a wide variety of the latest dredging equipment, books, gold pans, and accessories, and the most up-to-date electronic metal detecting equipment you can find. And don't worry, Charlie, I gave back the nugget. Of course, Dealer's Row often becomes a meeting place for swapping treasure tales and making plans for future expeditions. Roy Roush's little furry visitor to Dealer's Row hasn't quite learned the detecting art. Biggest problem is mastering the tuning control.
One of the most romantic facets of treasure hunting in the West today is the pursuit of the 49er's dream of gold and riches. Gold is found in a large number of states, including Colorado, Arizona, South Carolina, Georgia, Idaho, Wyoming, Oregon, and of course, California. One of California's first major gold strikes was made a few miles north of Los Angeles at Placerita Canyon. No dredging is permitted there today, but numerous other nearby locations are open to the prospector. Serious dredging is hard work, but even the ladies enjoy it. In addition to dredges, a wide variety of gold recovery equipment, like gold pans and sluice boxes, may be seen on the river on almost any summer day. Dredges range in size all the way from small backpacker styles like this one to large models capable of moving many tons of gravel per hour. John Quay enjoys dredging almost as much as using his metal detector. A gold dredge works something like a giant vacuum cleaner. Sand and gravel are sucked along through the intake hose and dumped into the sluice box. Here, metal riffles trap the gold, while lighter gravel is washed on out by the force of the water. It's cleanup time. The moment of truth has arrived. As the water drains, the gold begins to peek from the riffles. The riffles are raised, and the mat, which traps the fine gold, is removed in the final cleanup operation. The sluice is thoroughly rinsed so that not a single flake of gold is lost. The gravity trap pan, with its sharp 90-degree riffles, is an extremely efficient tool which greatly speeds up any panning or cleanup operation. The lighter materials wash out easily, while the riffles quickly and surely trap the gold. Look at all that gold. Dick Arthur's persistent efforts have really paid off. Although the motor-powered suction dredge is one of the most important tools of the 20th century prospector, the gold pan is still just as important today as it was during the days of the gold rush. Let's watch some of these gold pans in action. The gold panning competition is a popular event, with contestants coming from as far away as the Yukon Territory and Alaska. Six gold nuggets are pressed into a pan filled with a measured amount of sand. This timed event gives each contestant an opportunity to prove how quickly he can recover the nuggets. There's a 10-second penalty for each lost nugget. Since all contestants pan with the same 6 nuggets, the lost ones are recovered with a screen. Recovering the nuggets in less than 18 seconds is considered excellent time, and world records are below the 14-second mark. As the weekend draws to a close, the winners anxiously await the presentation of nearly $15,000 in prizes and trophies. Well, it's really been a fantastic weekend, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm looking forward to next year's hunt, but in the meantime, there's treasure waiting to be found. Why don't you join me?